not only does every short film have different needs, but so does every scene in a short film. So let's just kind of take a look at the editing timeline for my newest short film, Through Fire and Brimstone. You can see that there are 8 video layers and 11 audio layers. And most of them are not getting used at any given time. I'm trying to be really efficient with the way I use overlays, and I think this is something I've been trying to be intentional about, like focus on the storytelling, focus on the footage, on the acting, on the script, and have everything else be supplemental. I don't want to have a distracting edit on a film like this. This is just something I was thinking about. I want the creative decisions to be what's guiding the interest. And there are creative decisions, and there are times where, there's ways to use the edit to help tell that story in a way that is not distracting. And ways to use the edit uniquely. Let's look at maybe a scene like this. There's some kind of standard things happening during a shot like this. For instance, there's several things going on in a shot like this as as I'm establishing the scene. But let's look at the audio. Let's focus especially on that. How do I break this down? So what we have here is a mix of several elements. First off, there's a sound effect, a low impact to trigger the scene transition, a thum, just something to kind of, to have a kind of cinematic scene transition. It's kind of a punctuation, right? A very literal kind of punctuation. And then we fade in this ambient sound, which is, of course, a stock asset. And then we fade in a couple of extra elements just because this scene, this shot required ADR. And so aside from that one shot with ADR, which I think I blended really well in that shot. I'm really proud of how that turned out for this shot. But, like you go to these couple scenes and all that's happening in the audio is just trying to figure out the right volume balance of the on-set recorded dialogue and that room tone, which of course is pulled from a different space and just has a, I love it because it's hospital sounds, and it doesn't completely match the space, but I think it does add a kind of coldness to the scene. This is a very cold movie. It's filmed during the winter, and I think that that's just part of the aesthetic here. And of course the music comes in, but it's only a couple elements. It's nothing too crazy. There's nothing too distracting. But there's ways to use the edit in ways that are distracting. There's this audio, from a different scene, dialogue from a different scene that comes over, kind of used as a voiceover that is totally distracting. We have these booms. Those are non-diegetic, audio elements. That in many ways, like booms like that, those cinematic impacts, they are musical elements, and you can see them as a soundtrack, an extension to your soundtrack in a lot of ways. Philosophically, I use them in that sense. But really, it's like I'm not using them while I'm composing. I'm using them while I'm editing to try to figure out the pace of the film. So really, they are sound effects that I'm using non-diegetically. And I think that's an interesting philosophy.